I think maybe one of the only good thoughts I had early on about parenting was wisdom would be learning what to love. And then I was like, oh no, I already know what to love. Like I've got work that I love, I've got people that I love. But you write so tenderly about the fact that our loves often come in direct conflict. And I what happens when the things we love begin to come into conflict?
Yeah. I mean, this is the question at the heart of all of it, isn't it? I started thinking about this just so intensely as my children have become teenagers, and the trade-offs have become so much more clear. I think when they were little, it was really hard to leave them and go off to report from the war zone, or just go off and do the daily work in the newsroom. But there was always going to be another chance to make a different decision, stay home, to be there, to do the thing. And in my job, there's been a really just head-to-head conflict for several years now, because both my boys, who are teenagers, love soccer, have played soccer their whole lives, and their varsity games, which are like the focal point of life, are at 4 o'clock on weekdays. And I go on air with All Things Considered at 4 o'clock on weekdays. And you cannot be in two places at once, no matter what the engineers try to, rig up for you in terms of remote working situations. I cannot anchor All Things Considered from the bleachers. And every game, I would kind of think about it and think, well, I'll figure it out next time, next week, next month, next season, next year. And the seasons pass and the years pass, and suddenly I had a boy who was a senior, and we were staring down the last games, and there weren't anymore. And I have found it relatively easy to come home from a war zone, to say no to the big trip, to turn down the big interview because it's gonna stand in the way of something. It's like the little gray choices that are tricky. If your kid has something really big and important, of course you're going to make the effort to show up. And It's not about not making the effort, but it's the little ones where you always think, well, next time I'll figure out how to be there. And suddenly you realize the next times have all stacked up. And the trade you made was work was always more urgent. It was always the deadline was there. And so trying to figure out, okay, I'm out of next times. Like, I don't have any more do-overs. I got to get this one right.
I'm out of next times. It does feel impossible in the middle of it, right? Like,
there's so many next times.
There's so
many times to show up and be perfect mom and pick the perfect bedtime story, and you're all going to be in your fitty PJs and it'll be great. And and then suddenly it stops.